Go ahead and get started. I'm gonna share my screen. I'm gonna share my screen. Today, we are going to go over the tip calculator and the color psychology apps. So I'm on the website. I'm gonna scroll all the way down and I'll do these for you. I'll basically the way today's class is gonna be is I'm gonna do them and then like I'm gonna do them from the beginning, like not from like scratch, from the actual finished code, and then just kind of explain what's happening in the code. So we'll do tip calculator and we'll do color psychology. And the reason we're doing it like that is because there's not much to really kind of like look at. And plus, it's always good to see someone else's code so that you can like know how to read someone else's code. I think that's a really important skill. So I'll just go through those two. But first, I'm gonna go into the color psychology app and I'm going to pull up the finished code for that so that I have the color psychology app and I have the tip calculator finished. And I'll just quickly give a demo on what they look like. And yeah, we'll go from there. And just to quickly recap from last time, the last class we went over opening the project slides. Let me see. We went over this section here, opening project slides. That's what we did last time. Let me just open this up. See, pour this in VS Code. Looks like my computer is about to die. I'm gonna have to go grab my charger really quick. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. Um, so where are we? So basically, I downloaded the completed code for the color psychology app, and we'll first take a look at how these apps look in the browser, and then I'll start breaking down like how everything works. So this is the app. If we open up the project slides, the tip calculator is here, and the color psychology app is down here. Basically, with the tip calculator, you can put like, if you go to a restaurant, you can put like $100, for example, if you spend $100, and then you can put the percentage amount for the tip, say, let's say 20%. And then if you put them, you can put the amount of people that you want to split the cost with. Let's say there's like 3 people there. If you put 3 people and, the tip was 20%, and then, it's $100. So that's $120. You divide it by 3. That's how you got the $40 here. So that's how that tip calculator works. And obviously 100 is like a really easy number, but the price was like 250 or something like that. And like you gave like an 18% tip, and there was like, I don't know, 6 people there. Everybody would have to pay $49.17. So it's really good in like calculating really quickly the tip, basically. That's the tip calculator. And the color psychology is basically um, a lot of presenting a lot of different I'll just download the starter code for color psychology so we can see it not working before we see it working. Go back here. I'm gonna open up this. This is the starter code. And okay. So if I open up the project slides now and go down to color psychology, we can see that there's nothing here. See, there's literally just a background. And if we compare it to the complete code, this is the complete code, the background's still there, but now we have all of these colors and like words and stuff. And when we go through this concept is like a very important concept for like coding. You have to know how to use this concept, and we'll go over that when we get there. But first, we're gonna go over the code, the finished code for the tip calculator, so I can run through what's happening here. So one of the things I don't think I ever ran through yet was some of the CSS. I kind of did in the course a little bit, but I do want to do it here on this video just to get it out of the way. If well, I'm in the dev tools, and if I select this element here, obviously you can use these selectors here to select elements on the screen. I don't know if I said that in the course or not, but this arrow right here, anything, if we click this and this highlights, now we can highlight things on the other side and bring it up inside of the elements tab. So if I click on this and I hover over this, we can see that that's that element. But what I'm trying to select is this here, the tip calculator, and it brings you right directly to the tip calculator here on the side. So something to notice is that this is a div right here. The parent is a div, and it has a class of panel medium here, and it also has a class of blue. But I want you to see what happens when I change this class from blue to gray, I believe, yeah, to gray. So this one has a class of gray. We can see what's highlighted on the other side. This here, this is like a store app. If we notice that there's a clear difference between this background, this blue background, and this gray background here, and we can see it update real time. If I just type gray here, I replace blue with gray, and now this is gray, the tip calculator. So I'm gonna change it back to blue so we can see the difference again. So this is gray right here, and I'm gonna change it back to blue. That's blue. So now it's blue. There's like a dark blue here, and then there's a lighter blue down here. So it's almost like a gradient. And the same thing for the gray, except for its opposite. Up top is the lighter gray, and at the bottom is the darker gray. So there's a gradient here as well. So that's the difference between that. Also, let me see. I'm gonna go back to the tip. So I'm in the tip calculator. Something I wanted to do was give a quick, what's it called? Give a quick demo of looking at the HTML from the elements tab. And and so this is the parent right here, right? And obviously, another thing I want y'all to notice is that I have these comments right here. This says tip calculator, and this comment right here says CRUD store, right? So these comments separate the different apps in here. And the reason I did this is to make this as organized as possible. And we can even scroll up and see the mediation app, the clock app, the OOP app, game settings, whack-a-mole, tic-tac-toe, memory game, so on and so forth. Everything is separated with a comment. But either way, this is the tip calculator. That's the parent. And clearly the parent is basically giving it a background color, and it's also giving it a size as well. We can see that this says panel medium, so panel MD, and down here it says panel large. The panel large is actually like double the size of panel medium. and panel medium is double the size of panel small. This is the panel small here, the one with the clock. We go there, we can see panel SM. And obviously the moment I switch this class, if I do MD instead and click away, we can see that it expanded. It expanded the length of it. So I'm gonna turn this back to small just to put that back. But that was just, dim. Oh wait, that was the wrong one. This is the tip up there. This is medium. And this one is small. Actually, I'll just give a quick demo with large really quick, just because we're here. So if I do large, we can see that it expands even more. And I actually like this larger like this. Maybe I should have made it as large, but yeah, I'm gonna put it back to small just to fit it back in the grid as this. Small. Okay, now it's back to its original size. So I'm gonna go back to tip calculator, which is here. So we have the parent div. The parent div gives it the size and the background color. And then inside the parent div, we actually have the app itself. If I click on this div, we have a class of full size right here. In full size, we can see that we have our CSS right here. Whenever we click on the element, full size give it a height and a width of 100%. What that basically says is that we want this to be the height and width of its parent, of the parent. If I hover over the parent, we can see that the parent is in a slightly different spot than the child. We can see the child is a little bit like down. We can see that it's kind of like they're kind of stacked on top of each other, but not completely. The reason that's the case is because if I click on this, right? I'm gonna click on this. First of all, we can see that it has this blue class here, and this is what gave it that blue background. If I get rid of it, we can see that it changes. Okay. We have that medium thing, and this is what I was talking about last time. And this gave it size, but also let me see, medium. It looks like this may, hold on. One of these have some additional styling, and I'm gonna go down to the box model so I can figure that part out. So it's not the parent. The parent just has margin, but the child, let's see, the child doesn't have margin either. So by me looking at this, what I can conclude is that the reason this is being pushed down has something to do with the CSS on the child, because I don't see any like padding or nothing like that pushed this element down. So I might see something like position relative somewhere, and let me just check that. We can filter here. I'm just type position just to find anything with position in it. I don't see a position relative, but I do want to figure out why this is down like this. One moment. Let me go through this. Let's see, we have radius, float, height, margin. Hold on. We have over this, that's still down. So it's margin, that's fine. Sometimes it takes looking at the CSS to understand what's going on. This is actually a really good example, so we can figure this out real time, like what's going on with these two elements. I'm gonna click on this, and actually I'm gonna go into the paragraph, and the paragraph is what did it. See, I just thought about it. Anytime you see text, you got to remember that the paragraph tags have extra styling on it as well. I'll go down to the box model. I can see that it has margin here. See, it has margin top and it has margin left. The reason for that is because, yeah, margin left is 16, margin top is 16. If I uncheck margin top, you see it shifts back up top. And if I hover over this, now these two things are stacked directly on top of each other. So whenever you see something that's not exactly in the right spot, either there's something wrong with the box model. So if I click that, it pushes it down, or it's positioned oddly. For example, if I click this and if I just position this relative to where it's at and then move it from the top a few pixels, let's say 20 pixels. So this actually starts to move the the child there. So like either one of those two cases are true. But I'm gonna delete this just because that was just demonstration purposes. Either way, so this is that. Full size, obviously, height and width 100%. I'm going down to the paragraph here. If I click on this paragraph has a class of panel header. Panel header has a color here, and it's like a light red, or at least that's what the styling is for that. If I scroll all the way down in here, we can see that root is here and light red is here, and that's the actual variable that we're using, and that comes from right here, F34338. Let's see, we have some font weight that makes it bold, and I'm gonna show you the difference between this. So if I delete that, we can see, we have a list of things that we can choose from, and if I press the down arrow, we can see down, I'm starting to scroll through the different font weights. So the more I increase this number, the bolder it becomes. See, we even have bolder, initial, inherit, initial, and lighter options here. But I'm gonna turn in normal. I guess there's a few different ones, but I think mine is at 800, so I'll put that back at 800. We have margin left. Obviously, we can give this, margin depending on if we use left, right, top, and bottom. Or so we can either do it this way, or we can do the shortcut where we just write margin by itself. The top is the first one. It goes clockwise, top, and then right. It's just pixels, right, pixels, bottom, and left. Right now, I just gave it 0 margin on the top, right, bottom, and left. But if I wanted to put the left 16 pixels, I'm gonna put that here for the last one there, because that's that last one there, 16 pixels, and we had top at 16. So remember, we started off at top. So if I click here and then paste that in, we can see that we gave it the top margin. So this is the shortcut, just margin by itself, and then give it 4 values. If you give it 4 values, it's top, left, bottom, top, right, bottom, and then left. But if you give it 2 values, you can do top and bottom at the same time, and you can do right and left at the same time. I'll give you an example. So right now, if I hover over this, we can see that on the screen. We see this yellow stuff here. It's like right up on top of here, and on the side here, we have that. But if I delete these 2 zeros, I'm gonna delete. I'll delete one of them. If I delete both, we can see that now the top and the bottom has the same margin. So if I increase this, we can see that the top and bottom are increasing together. And if I increase this other one, we can see that the left and right are increasing together. So this is a shortcut. We can have 1 value, which gives the margin evenly across all sides. We can have 2 values, which gives the margin to the top and bottom, and then the second one is the left and right. Or we can have 4 values, where we have the top first, then the right, then the bottom, then the left. And please stop me if there was any questions on any of that. So, but yeah, that's that. And let me see, if I hover over this is the actual, box down here. And this contains, a div, and that div has a few input boxes here. Input box, input box, input box, and we have a span right underneath it. But something I want to point out is when you're looking at the CSS, it's a good idea to look at the input boxes. For example, if you wanted, this functions because we're physically changing the things inside of the input boxes. When you're trying to debug something and you want to figure out let's say you want to make something work or whatever, a good place to start is to inspect it, maybe figure out what kind of attributes you can use. For example, we're typing into this, and when you type into something, it fires something called a change event, and that's why we have this attribute called on change. So every time this input box changes in any way, it fires a calculate tip function. That's what happens on the JavaScript side, and that's why that works the way it does. And we can even see, it has a placeholder of $0.00. Placeholder takes place whenever I actually delete this. We can see that, in gray, it says that $0.00 right there. What else it has? It has a type of number. When you give an input box a type of number, it gives it these arrows right here. So I can press these arrows to change the number. That's what this type number does. It has an on key up event. This on key up event fires this calculate tip function as well. So the change happens whenever we press this arrows here. The on key up happens whenever I press the button down and then release my finger from the button. So I press the button down and now I'm about to release it. We can see that this price updated as soon as I released it because that triggered an on key up event. And obviously we have a class and ID, and the class, the class just gives it, height, width, and some padding. That's what that does. We hover over this, we can see how that class changes the HTML element. For the ID, I don't think the ID. Let me see. I don't think I gave it a styling for the ID. I may be using that somewhere else actually.
Cost. I have a question.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have a question. So, can you hear me well?
Yeah.
Okay.
On here.
Yeah. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. So talking about the on key up function, if we're maybe saving the value I get in the split processing value somewhere, can you also save it and change the value wherever I'm saving it to every single time? Is that okay? Or is that something that will affect performance?
The value for what's inside of the input box?
No, the results.
This
yes, yeah.
Save this.
If we were saving it somewhere, if it was a case where the application has a part where we save the answer.
Yeah. You could. I think that more so goes towards communicating with a server and saving it in some database. And that's a good question because we will be doing that here in this app here, Presto.
Okay.
Yeah, but this isn't until further down. But yeah, you can save it, and you can also save it into something called local storage, and we use local storage for these games here: memory game, tic-tac-toe, whack-a-mole, and game settings.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, we will be learning how to save it to a database, which is a very common skill. So yeah, it's a good question.
Okay.
All right, so let me see. So yeah, that's on. Yeah, so yeah, let's go into the code and try to figure out what's going on with the completed code. Remember, the function that was fired was calculate tip. So we'll start there. Let me go here. A good thing to do is just to search here. This is a global search in VS Code. I'm just going to paste in calculate tip, and I can see a few instances of it. This global search is very, very important. I use this pretty much every day at work. If I gotta search something in the code, this helps a lot. So I pasted it. Now I see a few instances of it. Obviously, we have it inside of the HTML file because we have it on these input boxes here. So input boxes, we have it on the on click, and I mean we have it on the on key up and the on change events, and that's where these 6 instances come from. See, this one. We can click through here. Another good thing to know about this is that we can search by extension. For example, this says .html, this says .js. I think I press these dots here, and now I say, okay, files to include, and you can write regular expressions here. And I'm gonna just write, you can either write a regular expression or you can write the actual like pattern for the file. I normally just write like .js, and that includes the .js files. We can see it here. Or if I just do .html, and that just gives me just back the .html. And obviously we can say what to exclude. I'm gonna put the .html here and just delete this. And that includes everything except for .html, which shows the .js. So this is good to know about when searching. And obviously we can do a find and replace as well. If I wanted to turn this from calculate tip to calculate my tip, I can do that. I can just press this button here and it'll replace all of these, but I'm not gonna do that on here. Just me showing how this works. I'm gonna close this up with the dots. Anyway, I wanted to just come here to the JavaScript file, the tip calculator file, and I'm going to put a debugger here. And we're going to walk through what happens in this code, like step by step. So we'll do a refresh and open up. Actually, let me detach this to a different window because I feel like we're going to need the whole window. I'm gonna go here. Let's open up the projects and go here. I'm gonna press the number 1 here. So I press the number 1, hit the debugger. I'm gonna go over here. We hit this debugger inside the tip calculator. So I'm gonna click this button here. Now we have a function called get by ID. What I normally do is I double click this, I copy it, and I press Command F. Actually, you can just press Command F and it'll show you all the instances of it. And I try to figure out where this function comes from. And it looks like the function is not defined within this file. And since it's not defined in this file, I know that, all of our functions are actually inside of the util.js folder. And I'll show you how to get to it from here, actually, because this is actually a good skill as well. On the side here, we can see that we have all of our files. We have the assets, JS, index, HTML, CSS, and the reset CSS. I'm open up the JavaScript file, and I'm gonna go down to util.js here, and I can see that this function is here. I'm gonna just click here to set a debugger so that we can stop inside of this function. Because we may not be able to do it from here because we have a lot of different code running at the same time. So if I press this, let's see what happens. Okay, it goes directly in there, which is good. So we stopped here, we passed it, an ID. It says get by ID. It looks like we're using the document.get element by ID to get the element. If I hover over this is that element. And if let me put this back to the side here because I want to show this. If I hover over this, we can see that on the left-hand side, the element in the actual DOM, like on your app, highlights. If I hover over this, that's the indication that yes, we did actually capture that HTML element, and we can also see that it has we can further validate because it says input box. It has an ID of cost. See here, and that's where we use the ID from, actually, by the way. And it also has a class of small input. This is actually a really good example also of how we can target the element as well. We can literally use this inside of our CSS file. Before we were just using ID, where it was just like the hashtag and then the ID name, and just like the class where it was just like a dot in the class name. But you can combine all of this stuff. And we were using the tag name as well, where you can put the tag name, hashtag, we put tag name and then ID name and then class name and combine all of that stuff together to form one big selector for CSS. And that's it. That's like, since it's so specific to the element, it takes priority over a few other different CSS rules. But those are side notes. Either way, all this function does is it grabs the element and then it returns it back. That's all that does. So I'm going to, again, move this back to its own window here. I'm gonna press this button, the step button, And now we've passed that element to the variable. It's important to know that like we can save HTML elements inside of variables. It's not just like strings, numbers, objects, like arrays. Like we can actually put HTML elements inside of variables, and that's what we're doing here. And we're going to do the same thing here inside a tip calculator. Let me get rid of this debugger so it doesn't stop there. Press this. And obviously we grab the thing with the ID of tip. I'm gonna actually show that really quick on this side. If I hover over tip, we can see that other box highlighted because that has an ID of tip. If I get past this next line here, if I hover over the number of people, we can see that that last box highlights because that has an ID of number of people. That's all that's doing, getting it by ID. So let me detach this one more time here. Okay. So we have has all fields, and it goes into a function called all fields entered, right? And we're passing it all three HTML elements: the cost, the input box, the tip box, and the number of people box, and all of these are inputs. I'm gonna go and find this function. I'm gonna just do a Command F, and we can see that that function is actually inside of the same file. So from there, we know that we can press this down button right here to step into the function. I'm gonna press that. It goes into that function. We passed it all three HTML elements here as parameters. This one says has cost value, has tip value, has number of people value. So cost dot value is actually what's inside of the input box. And we're doing a dot length on that to make sure there's actually a value in there. If I hover over cost by itself, I can literally scroll down to where it says value. And that's where we get that from, value here. We have a number 1 inside of that, see? Because we typed number 1 here on this side. But notice these other twos don't have values there. They just have the placeholders. So if I hover over tip here and I go down to value, go down to value, where is it? It's an empty string because we didn't actually put anything inside of there. So all this essentially is doing is basically getting the length of each of these values and making sure that length is greater than 0, and that turns it into a Boolean. This is a good example of using a combination of the length property and these comparison operators to turn this into a Boolean. So this is saying is 1 greater than 0? And yes, it's true that 1 is greater than 0. And this also indicates that yes, we actually have a value inside of that input box. So that's why this one is true. But these two are false, obviously, because the value of these are an empty string, and the length of an empty string is 0, and 0 is not greater than 0, and that's why we got a false here. So this function essentially checked to see if we entered things inside of the input boxes by checking the length of the string that's inside of each input box.
Oh, okay. I was about to ask, why are we using lengths? Could you just check if the value is greater than 0? Like the value of the elements of what we have inside costs.
Yeah, so that would be like saying, is this string greater than 0? And I'm
okay, because it's a string.
Yeah, exactly. We had to turn it into a number, and then we can really compare it. Yeah, I'm not sure what happens when you put strings, when you compare those to numbers.
Okay.
Yeah. But that's why. So we're returning true and false and false. The reason we're using these ampersands is because, remember, in order for this to be a true statement, all of these have to evaluate to true. Like this has to be true, and this has to be true, and this has to be true. And if all three of these are true, we return true. Like these three Booleans collapse into one Boolean. And if all of these are true, it is true that all field that all fields are entered. Basically, all fields entered. We can see by the name it's descriptive. If I click this button here, I'm just going to click this. We're going to see the return value here. And the return value is false, like I was saying, because all of these have to be true in order for it to be true. So return false. And hover over this is false now. So if has all fields and it does not have all fields, if has all fields is going to execute this set split amount. But obviously we're going to skip over that because this is false. We don't even go inside of that. Just hit play at this point. So I'm gonna keep going. I'm actually gonna disable this debugger until I put a few things in here. I'm gonna press this button here to disable it. We make it blue, it's disabled. We press 100 here, and then I'm gonna press 20, and then here, and I'm gonna actually take this off now. Here, I'm going to press the number 4, and now I'm about to release my hand from the keyboard. After I do that, we can see that it triggered the on key up event, and now we're going through the same process where we're getting the cost, tip, and the number of people. So we have all 3 of those HTML elements. We're gonna say if all fields are empty. Now this time we're gonna actually go inside of that really quick. So we have the value of this one is 100. The length is 3. Obviously that's gonna be true. The value of this is 20. The length of that is 2. That's gonna be greater than 0. The value of this is 4. The length of that is 1, which is greater than 0. And that says that each of these, this is true, true, and true. Each of these have an actual value inside of the input box. And because all 3 of these are true, we're going to return true. Press this. The return value is now true. So this tells us, hey, we actually have things inside of those input boxes. Press next. Now this is true. Since that's true, we go inside of this if statement here. And now we're going to go inside of split amount. We'll press this, Command F to find that. Okay, we have it in the file. That's good. And it looks like we're passing it the cost, the tip, and the number of people. Now let's see what we're going to do with that. I'll press this down button to go inside of the function. So now we're getting the value of each. We're using parse float. Now, the reason we're using parse float is because we want to convert a string. See, if we hover over cost.value, this is a string. We want to convert that to a float value. And a float value is something that has 2 decimal places. So it's going to convert this to 2 decimal places because that's how we deal with money. And that's why I'm using parse float. If we use parse int, that will convert it to 1 decimal place. And I'm going to quickly show the difference inside of the console really quick. I'm going to keep this here for now. I'm just quickly go over the difference here. If I have a constant, and I say, let's say, call it A. A is 100.967845, whatever. It's a string as well. And I want to turn this into a number. If I do parse int here, this is a function. We can see there's a function right here. It says F. I'm going to call it with a string. If I put one opening bracket, it tells us exactly what is expecting. A string here. This question mark right here, that means optional. And I've never actually used this this actual optional parameter. We don't have to enter that. That's what that means. But I'm going to put inside of that the letter A because that's a string. And I'm going to close that up to call the function. A is not defined. Why is it saying that? I'm just going to paste this in. I'm not sure why it's saying that. I'm going to paste in this string here just so that we can see the example. And we can see that parse int turns it into a number that has no decimal places. But if I do parse floats, it's going to turn it into a number. Oh, that has decimal, not 2 decimal places. It has decimal places. So it retains the amount of decimal places it has. But we turn the whole thing there. But yeah, that's the difference there.
Mm-hmm.
We go back to the code. So I'm going to convert these to decimal place to maintain the decimal places. We didn't put any, we just put whole numbers, well, for the most part. This tip is going to be, this tip goes to the number 20, and then we divide it by 100, and that's why that's 0.2. And then we have 4 here. The total is obviously, let's call it, the cost of it. This is just an equation, basically.
Yeah.
Cost plus the cost times the total, times the taxes or whatever. That just gives you the true number, and then you divide that by the number of people. Basically, it's like saying you're paying $100 and the taxes is 20% of $100, which is 20. So this is 120 divided by 4 people, and that's going to be like $25 or something like that. Let me just be sure. 30. We have 100 plus 20. That's 120 divided by. Oh yeah, the number of people 4. Yeah, 120 divided by 4 is 30, right? I'm still thinking about 100. That's right. Yeah. So now we calculated that. Now we're going to get the pay. We're going to get that by ID. Obviously, let me just clap this real quick just so we can see this. I'm going to press this button and it grabs it by ID. Hover over this. We can see that on the left-hand side, there's like a box here, like a bubble. And it basically shows what element that is. The reason it's not actually highlighting is because that element doesn't take up any width on the screen. Not until we have some text inside of that. And right now we're gonna give it some text. So since this is an HTML element, we can literally scroll down to where it says inner text. Where is it? Inner text. And the inner text is empty right now. But we can actually set these as well. And we can set it by saying pay.inner text. And now we're going to set it to something with a $sign, and we're going to get the total, and we're going to fix it to 2 decimal places. This is how we get the 2 decimal places here. 2 fixed. So this is $30. I'm going to press this, and we get a $sign, we get the 30, and we get the 2 decimal places. And just to quickly show on this side, if I do 2 fixed, where was that? 2, so this is a number. So if we did 30, so numbers have properties and methods. So if I do 30 dot 2 fixed, where is it? Why is it not showing up? That was supposed to work. Let's see, 30 dot, yeah. Maybe this is very odd. I thought we were supposed to take one period. This is the first time I've seen this actually. Let me try something out really quick. B equals 10. Maybe if I do it, let me hit play. I'm gonna just hit. Let me finish this out, and then I'll go back to that. But anyway, we change the inner text to whatever we calculated, and that's how this app works essentially. Every time we change any of these numbers, it goes through the exact same process, and it calculates the actual thing here. And I'm gonna go back here because I think that this was kind of odd. I'm wondering if let's see, B is that. I say what's B? Let's see, B dot 2 fixed. Okay, and then if I type in 2, we get 2, 3, we get 3, 4, we get 4. But if I do 10.2 fixed, okay, I see what the difference is. So the way this works in the dev tools, this is not JavaScript. The way this works in the dev tools is if you use a variable and then use 2 fixed, we only need 1 dot. But I guess using the number by itself and then 2 fixed, you have to use 2 dots. And if this is a JavaScript thing, this is the first time I've actually seen it. So and let me look it up actually. See JavaScript 2 dots on number. Let's see, using method. I kind of typed a bunch of random crap, but this just kind of shows you how I looked this up to to figure out like certain things. Call number method with 2 dots in JavaScript. Here we go. So if I don't know something, I always look it up if I can, and hopefully I can find it somewhere. And normally it's on Stack Overflow. Here we go. This is the exact same thing that we just did. See why this throws syntax error and while this does not. So this may actually convert it some kind of way. This other dot, that's what I'm thinking. So the first dot you type in a number literal is a decimal. Oh, a decimal point. Okay, that actually makes sense. So JavaScript interprets the first dot as a decimal point because it thinks that you're trying to write a decimal point. That makes complete sense, actually. The second dot is the indicator that we're actually trying to use a method on that number. So this is like saying 121 dot point, whatever, all part of the same number, and then dot, and then we use the method. That's interesting. Learn something every day. And that just goes to that, like, not every, just because you know JavaScript don't mean you know all of it. So yeah, that's that. All right. So that is tip calculator. If there's any questions, let me know. If not, I'll move on to the color psychology after we get back from the break, actually.
Okay.
Let's go on break. We'll get back at 11:32, no, 11:35. We'll come back. And at 11:35, we'll just work on tip calculator. I'll take a little break as well. I see you back at 11:35. We'll get started in 1 minute. Let's see. I'll just share my screen really quick. Let's this. Share my screen. Let me see. Okay. We'll get started. So now that we're done at, we want to do this here, this color psychology app, this one here. Right now, we just kind of started with the blank screen, but this one is kind of important because it shows the code for this one shows a lot of good stuff about how to create different HTML elements. I'm looking at the time because I'm hoping we have enough time to go over it. So I'm gonna just try to get as many things out as possible. So I'm looking at the HTML, and the only thing I see here is one div. The div is, it's an idea of color psychology, and has a few classes here. But if I go here, so this is the incomplete code right here. But if I go to the complete code, let me go over here. The complete code has a little bit more stuff in here. So we started off with just a div with a, it just says color psychology for the ID. And we take that and we turn that into a div with the color psychology, and we also give it some children. And this is what each of those children kind of like look like. And I'm gonna go to the code so we can see where these values come from. But this is one thing I want to point out. I'm just gonna copy this format really quick. Let me see, edit HTML, edit as HTML. I'm gonna just copy this, and I'll show how we can create this HTML element with JavaScript, because JavaScript is the thing that created this. Let me go to the code. Let me close this out. That was color psychology. That's this right here. And literally the code is literally 13 lines long. But I want to point some stuff out really quick. I'm gonna paste this here, and I'm gonna comment this out. This was the HTML element right here. So one thing to know is that inside of this file, we have just one function, and then we're calling that function. We could have did this two different kinds of ways. We can either write the function here and then call it, or we can do something called like a self-executing function. But first, let me just put a debugger here just to prove that, this is actually being called exactly when we reload the app. So I'm gonna refresh here, and we hit the debugger automatically as soon as the app starts, because as soon as it gets to this file, it calls the function. I'm gonna just hit play real quick. Get this to him. So I'm gonna turn this into a self-executing function. I have to delete that part. Just to get the arrow function by itself. I surround this by parentheses, and then all the way at the end, I call it with parentheses like that. So I'm gonna delete this and save it. If I go back here and then refresh, we can see that it ran the function again. See, this is how you call this is called like a self-calling function. I don't know if there's a specific name for it, but like it calls itself. That's what I could have done, but I just want to show that just in case y'all see that like in someone else's code. But I'm gonna go back actually I'll leave it like this. Actually, I'll leave it like this.
That's a recursion, right?
No, it's not. So recursion is calling itself.
Okay.
Yeah. So if we had this, and inside of here, we call the function again. This is recursion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we call it, it goes inside, and then it calls itself. Good question though. Good question. But yeah, I'm gonna delete that, and I'm gonna just actually leave it like this. I'm gonna save this and I'll go through and then go through the code just so we can see what happens. So basically we're here inside of, set color word. Oh, one moment. Okay. All right. So my bad. So we're inside of set color the word, right? We're gonna do a few things. The first thing we're gonna do is get by ID, the same thing we did last time. And the thing that we're getting by ID is that div that had an ID of color psychology. And I'll quickly show that in the basically the div that we're getting is this one here. This is the incomplete code right here. So we grab that. Let me go get past that line here. We hover over this. This is the div with the ID of color psychology, and it has a class of flex and a class of full size. And we can see that over on this side too. So the class of flex and class of full size. So we just can't see it here because we would have to open up the projects first, but this runs right away. So I can't really show it. But either way, we're running a for loop here. Now, this is a different type of for loop than like the original. This one maps over an object, and this object is called color map. I'm gonna show that in the code really quick. Color map is not inside of this file. That's one thing to note or whatever. So if I go to so color map is actually here inside of colors.js right here. And obviously the reason this file knows about this file, this colors file, is because of the order that it's brought in to the HTML. So we have, where is it? We have colors here, and this is on top of color psychology. But if we was to flip places here, then this wouldn't know what color map was. It would say that as undefined. But yeah, that we kind of went over that in the last class as well. But either way, colors is here, and we can see, color map is here, and we can see that color map is an object. And what we're doing is we're looping over this object. So we can see that it says some text right here, and then it says a value right here. The text represents what we see in the actual like square. Once we get those squares, that text is going to be like represented inside of it. And the value here says CP red. This represents a color that I have inside of the CSS file. So I'm gonna just show you how I did that real quick. If I highlight this and I press Command Shift F, that this is on Mac. I think it might be Control Shift F on Windows. But either way, that's how I do the global search, like from the keyboard, and not have to click on this search icon to do it first. So inside of the CSS file, I see it right here. We can see that CP red has background color of red, orange has background color of orange, yellow, green, blue, pink, purple, brown, black, white. All of these things have like background colors. White actually has like a color of what's it called? Black as well, or like a black color, because we need to see the text on top of it. But we'll get to that. So either way, we have all of those here: red, orange, yellow, green, blue, pink, purple, brown, black, white. We have all of those. So now what we're going to do is we're going to use this object to recreate the HTML elements that we were seeing on the screen, which look like this, like these things here. Here, we're going to recreate this. Now in the code, I'm not going to save this, but I wanted to put this here so that we can see the highlighting really quick. So in the code, let me go back to source. I'm gonna press, it's this one here. All right, so we have color map and we have text. So the way this works is we do let some variable in some object. If I click this, the variable is going to be the first key inside of the object. That's what that's going to be. And this is going to stay as the object. So the first key inside of that object was excitement here. The next one will be strength, love, energy, so on and so forth. So we have the text. That's why I named it text. You can name this whatever you want. It just has to be in this place. So color class, what I'm doing is I'm trying to find a class that's associated with this text. So the class that's associated with this text is CP red. And the way I get that is by doing color map and then dot excitement. And that gives us back color red. I can either do a dot or let me see, I can do color red dot excitement, or I can do color map square bracket excitement. Both of these are the exact same thing. These give you the same value back. It's just two ways of doing the exact same thing. Both of them are used to access the values within objects. Okay.
Okay, but why do we need the quotation marks?
Right. So this is if we have the string, and that's what I'm about to show. Actually, I'm gonna comment this out just so we can have this here. But on this side, we have text as a string. The only way we can get a value out of an object with the string is to put it inside of square brackets. See, we have square brackets right here. So we have color map, which is the object, square brackets, and we have the text, which is excitement. And that gives us back the value, which is CP red. See, I go past this line, it says CP red now. So yeah, if you need to get a value out of an object and you have no other way of doing it except for using a string, you want to use this version right here. And to be honest, like I would probably use this almost all the time, because this dot notation version, this sometimes has like errors in it. You can use this one, but if you do have an error in your code, I will go back and use this one. Now, I've ran into situations where I had to go from using the dot notation to this notation, the bracket notation. I'm not sure exactly what happened in my code, but I know that this one worked and this one did not work. So this is the more reliable one. You can use this one up until it don't work, and then use this version of it. So it's a quick explanation of that. But either way, we have the text here, and we have the actual class. So now what we're going to do is we're going to create a HTML element inside of JavaScript. So document.create element, and we want to create a div. So we created a div. So this is the div that we created. It has no classes, it has no IDs, it has no attributes, it has nothing like that. But now we're going to start giving it classes and some text, basically. So that in order to give this a class, we can't just do like ID.class. Now we can do it, but it's not, we can do ID.class name equals something, but the proper way to do it is to use like the methods on it. So this div, this HTML element has a method called class name. And on that, it has a property called class name, and on that property has a method called add. So we're using the add method. We're going to add to the class list. We're going to add a class of BTN. Now, if I hover over the div, we can see that it has a class of BTN. That's what that does. Element.classlist.add. That's how you add a class. If you want to remove one, you do element.classlist.remove, and then you put the class you want to remove. But that's how you do that. So now we're going to add another class. And the class that we're going to add is the one that we got from this variable right here, the one that we literally pulled out of the object. See, CP red. However, div now, we have BTN and we have CP red. This is an example of getting something dynamically. When somebody say dynamic, that literally means you get it within the code. Like the code is what determines what it is, and then you use it from the code. So we added this class dynamically by using this object right here. That's how we were able to do that. So we gave it two classes. Now we have to give it some text. And remember, the text is actually the key, excitement. See? So div dot inner text. Right now it's empty, but we're going to set it to excitement. And now we go over here and we hover over inner text. We can see that the text is now excitement. And now we're going to do color psychology, which is that HTML element that we grabbed all the way in the beginning. The one that is here. We grab this HTML element right here. So we're going to use this, and this has a method on it called append child. And basically what this does is it adds another child inside of this div right here. So we created it in JavaScript here, the HTML element, the div, but we didn't put it on the screen yet. This is us actually physically putting that div on the screen by adding it as a child of this div. And that's what we're going to do. If I hover over this really quick, let me just show you. If I hover over this and I go to I feel like I should have like children. Yeah, children. Right now the children is 0. Like there's a length of 0. It's basically like an array. It's called an HTML collection, but it's almost like an array. It has no children right now. But if I go past that line and then hover over it and then go down to children, we can see that now we have a div with the class of BTN and a class of RP CP red. So now we're starting to get HTML elements inside of that. And we're literally going to run through this, get the class, get the div, make the div, give it a class name, give it some inner text. This time give it inner text of strength because strength was the next thing that's on the list. And we're going to keep doing that, and we're going to keep adding those children to this HTML element, this color psychology HTML element, until we fill it up with everything that's inside of this object right here. We're literally going to go fill it up with everything that's in here. That's what the loop does. I'm just going to hit play. After I hit play, we can see, all the way inside of the color psychology is that we see everything here. See. Excitement, strength, love, energy, confidence, what's called success, bravery, sociability, creativity, so on and so forth, basically. And it has the colors that's associated with it because we added the class of the color, and that class is what gave it the background color. This class of BTN, what that did was it basically gave it some more styling. .btn. This is what anything with the BTN styling gets. So we gave it a background color of black to this is like the default. And then once we gave it this other class, we overwrote the default. I can show you that real quick. If I go here and if I delete CP red from here, it turns black. So black was the default. So anyway, we have a border radius, border, font size, font weight, line height, margin, padding, text align, user select, vertical align. And just because we have some time, I'm just gonna explain what each of these do, and then I'll tell you what we'll do next Sunday, and then we'll call it a day. But anyway, background color, that gives it a background color, obviously. And I'll do it from here. Actually, I feel like it'll be better if I show it. Where is it? Color. We should have BTN here somewhere. Hold on, we're not even on it. Click this one. Okay, BTN right here. So background color, black. Obviously, this was CP red. So let me just put that back because that overwrote that. And we can see that when I added this back, this is now crossed off. That means that this was overwritten. But if I uncheck this one, it takes the it crosses this one out and it takes the default back. See, now this is not crossed off, but I'm gonna add this back. That's what it does. Background color, background radius. This messes with the smoothness of the edges. If I increase this number, we can see that it turns into like a circle or whatever. And this is better seen with like pixels. I do pixels here, and as I increase the pixels, it turns more circular. That is what the background radius does. Let me put it back to how it was before. This was 0.25 rem, and rem is just another unit of measurement. one rim is 16 pixels, basically. That's what this does. So essentially this is a 4 pixel, this is 4 pixels because one is 16 pixels. Border. I put 1 pixel solid transparent. Now the reason I put transparent is because like it's not actually going to take up, it's not going to, you're not actually going to see a border here. Transparent just literally means we're not going to add a color. If I add black here, we can see that, you know, it gave it a border of black. I'm just put transparent. I could have probably took this out. I feel like I put this here for a reason. Maybe there's like other buttons in this app that needed a border transparent or whatever, but that's what that is. Font size obviously is font size. If I increase this, the font, you know, goes up. Font weight, I showed that before. This basically just shows how bold something is. Those letters are very skinny and they get bolder and bolder as I go down the list. I'm gonna put it back at 400. Line height is how much space it takes up on the top and bottom. So if I increase this, look at these letters here. We can see that it takes up more space. See, each of those things take up more space. And this is literally the space from top to bottom. That's what that does. Margin, this was overwritten, obviously, because it's crossed over. If I go up here, we can see that was overwritten by this. It gave everything a margin of 2 pixels. Padding, we know what that is. And just like margin, when we did last time, when we did 2 values, the first value and the second value, it's the same with padding. If we just give it 2 values, the first one is top and bottom, and the second one is left and right. It's the exact same pattern as the margin. Text align center, that aligns the text in the center. If I uncheck that, okay, it's still there in the center. But I think there might be another app on here that uses this text align center. So I'm gonna just keep that there for now. User select. This is a good one because when user select basically makes it that I can't like highlight these things. Let me uncheck this so I can show you. If I uncheck that and I double click this, I'm highlighting the text. See, if I double click that, I highlight the text. Because these are buttons, I don't want to have this highlight effect. I don't want somebody to be able to highlight it when they press the button. It just don't look right. So I added that. When I double click this now, nothing happens. I can't highlight this text. That's what this does. User select none. Vertical align middle, I'm not sure what this does actually. I'm not even sure why I even put it here. I may not even need this TSS rule, but it's supposed to align it vertically, or align like the text in the middle. I'm not even sure where this is being used, to be completely honest. But those are all of the CSS classes. So let me zoom back up. Let me close this out and zoom back out of this. Yeah, here we go. All right, cool. So we are at the end of class. If there's any questions, let me know. If not, go ahead.
The user select, is it because we made button to go div? Or even though we use a button, can the text be selected?
Yeah, so we can't select like the text. We just have it there because we don't want the text to be selectable. It's the same here with these buttons too. Like this is a button. I don't want this to like, I don't want you to be able to highlight the text like this. Whenever you start clicking buttons, it starts to highlight eventually, and it just looks, it's just a bad user experience. Even this one, this is a button also. I use it on this one, and this is a button. I can't highlight that. I just use that BTN class on every button I see, even these buttons here. So that's what that is. Oh, and the last thing I forgot to go over is this this active class. If I click this, this starts to be see-through, and that comes from here, BTN active. This is a pseudo class. Hold on, not that. Hold on. Opacity. One of these. Hold on. What's that? Hold on. Actually, let me just quickly share it real quick. I don't have to guess. I'm gonna just click on this. And then from here, what I can do is I can actually activate that myself. If I click hover right here and press active, it gives it an active class. And you can do this with focus, target, hover, all of that stuff. I'm going to add this CSS active class. This activates whenever we actually click this down with our mouse. So if I activate that active class, I can see where the color comes from by looking at the CSS. Right here, BTN, yeah, this was right. BTN with the active class, we get this styling right here. And we're basically giving it a color of, I think this is white. Yeah, white. Giving the background color of white. And we're making this see-through, basically. It's very see-through. That's why this alpha is 0.1. Now that I think about it, if I click on this text is black. So we still see that text, but this text is white. So it's kind of hard to see a white text on a white background or whatever. But yeah, that's what that did. Any other questions before I go over what we're going to be doing next week? Okay.
No.
Cool. So let me go back on this. So obviously, like I was saying last week, some of these projects you'll have to do on your own. Today we did color psychology and we did tip calculator. Now on your own, I want y'all to go through password generator. This is a good one to go through. I really wanted to go through this one in class as well, but I feel like y'all should go through it just to challenge yourselves and, you know, make sure y'all actually know what's going on. Next week, we're gonna do actually I want y'all to do color. I want you to do password generator and Breaking Bad as well, because Breaking Bad is a small app to go through. Next week we're gonna go through the meditation app, and we're gonna start going through the memory game. And these games can be really, really long. The memory game, I feel like it's doable in the class time, but once we get to like tic-tac-toe, I may ask y'all to do this at home next week. We'll see. Depends on how I feel. But either way, do Breaking Bad and you can do Breaking Bad on your own, and you can do password generator on your own. And next Sunday we're gonna do memory game, and we're gonna do the mediation app. So yeah, on Tuesday we're gonna do the same thing. Just go through a cold words problem, and I'll post that in the chat as well. Yeah, and I may actually make another assignment for Tuesday. Just watch out for that assignment. I may do a cold words and something else. But either way, yeah, if there's no questions, I will see everybody on Sunday. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, see ya.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. Bye.